Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Bits and Pieces New York City. With me are two very special guests coming way, way deep down in the diaspora. We have one young lady from British Columbia and another from Bonn, Germany. Do stay with us. We will be back with you shortly. Here's that. We will be. You would have heard it said that New York City is a melting pot, home to a variety of peoples and cultures. And in contrast to what you may occasionally encounter in this era of fake news, this statement is true. So very true. Think only of the fact that some 800 languages are spoken across the 5 boroughs of Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island. And the most diverse section of this also diverse metropolis is the borough of Queens. For there is no other urban area on earth with so many distinct ethnicities. Now should you opt to journey through Queens, you will at some point encounter an enclave dominated by the presence of Guyanese and Trinbagonian immigrants, a neighborhood that the media has christened as Little Guyana. This is Bits and Pieces New York City, a podcast and news magazine designed to promote the interests of the communities of Queens, New York, while building awareness of the cultures and lifestyles of the people of Guyana, the rest of the Caribbean, and Latin America. Bits and pieces. With so much to talk about, we've got to take it one bite at a time. All right, we're here with you. We're gonna first introduce our guest. Alicia, could you go ahead, tell us something about yourself?
Hi, I'm Alicia. I am from Bartica in Guyana, and I'm so proud of that. I love Bartica to the bone. Um, I migrated to Barbados, and now I'm living in British Columbia, Canada. Um, and as the show goes on, I'm sure you'll find out a little bit more as Andy delves deeper into why we're here and as we talk some more. But for now, I am just here sharing our experiences with you in the diaspora as we go on.
Thank you, Alicia. Deborah, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I am Deborah Rosanwo, living here in Bonn, Germany. And I'm a GT girl, South Rheinbelt. Grew up in Guyana, was born in England, grew up in Guyana, came to Germany to study, met the love of my life, stayed here, and now practicing medicine here in Germany.
Okay, great. Let's let's start off with a very light question. Deborah, what's the weather like today in Bonn, Germany? What's happening on the outside?
Well, it's -degrees. It's freezing. We've had a weekend and a week out of hell, as we could say, because we have hardly seen winter. We're not like you guys, where we've forgotten what winter was like. And this time we got some Arctic air coming in, and we had -degrees and heaps of snow, and the trains weren't going, and the buses weren't going, and everything was a complete catastrophe. And just this weekend now, the sun has come out. Still -degrees, but it was beautiful weather. So we were able to enjoy the snow outside and the sun.
What about you, Alicia? What's going on in BC, British Columbia?
Well, we are minus 17 degrees Celsius. That's 62 Fahrenheit. We Yeah, it's really snowy and cold, but I'm happy to be indoors today, off work, have the weekend off, so I can just relax and enjoy this nice weekend.
Great, great. Deborah, tell us, when was it, whether early last year or maybe late 2019? Can you recall the moment you realized that, okay, something very serious is going on with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic? What happened or what was happening at the moment you say, hey, we're in a big thing here?
Well, because I'm in the medical field, I think maybe my ear was closer to the ground. So we realized already at the end of January, we were hearing about things happening in Wuhan, and we were definitely following this. I can remember making a post on Facebook on the 25th of January in one of the Guyanese groups saying, look, there is something coming around. It is going to be a pandemic and you guys will have better, look after yourselves, shut Guyana down because of our Chinese connection and see to it that, because it's a virus that has never been heard of before. That was on the 25th of January. Of course, I had all sorts of people making jokes about me and you all are always overdoing it and so on. And by the end of February, that was when everyone had actually realized what was going on. So I realized pretty early what was going on.
Yeah. How about you, Alicia? What was your moment of reckoning?
Well, for me, we heard of what was going on in Wuhan, but because we're so, I don't want to say isolated, but our population is so small compared to the land space that it didn't really, the realization didn't hit. And then we as a family went to Mexico at the end of in the beginning of February, and then I'm checking and I'm seeing you should try to get home as soon as possible. And we got home, and a couple of days after we got home, our airport shut down. And then I was like, okay, back to work. Let's see what's happening in the workplace here. And that's when realization hit me that we were into something really big here.
Deborah, someone in the scientific community, how did this, play out for you?
Well, for me, as a person, I really have to explain. First of all, my field of medicine is diagnostic medicine, diagnostic imaging, and so I was not hit in any particular way. I just had to continue. We were so-called essential workers, and even more so because the hospitals were using their diagnostic facilities for the COVID patients. So everything was more or less being outsourced to private practices like mine. So we were inundated with work, and the only difference was that we had to put on different hygiene concepts and use our face masks and our gloves and so on. But we were just working through, So there wasn't much of a difference for myself.
What about you, Alicia?
Well, for me, I was in acute care when I came back from Mexico, but then a position came up in long-term care, and I took it because it was more feasible for my family at the time. So I literally transitioned from acute care into long-term care when COVID hit our hospital, and for a long time we were sheltered from the full impact of it. And I didn't pick up any acute care shifts because I had my son was under 2, and I just didn't feel comfortable working on the front line at that time. However, then our long-term care home started to get hit the hardest, and almost from December 12th, I was working around the clock, just trying to help with the force that we were hit with. We were hit really hard, and we lost a lot of our residents, and it was really heartbreaking. And so now we are starting now the healing process, because we get to know these people, and it's hard.
Okay, Alicia, how do you, as a medical practitioner, uh, as a person of faith, as a mother, um, how do you deal with the toll that that it was taken?
Uh, um, well, and I look at the bigger picture, and I know that all life, my belief is all life comes from God, and there's nothing that's going to happen that he wouldn't allow. So, and the same God that's in charge of everything is the same God that will look after us. And so, as we work through it as a team, we learn to lean on each other's strengths. I have the tendency or gift to stay calm in the face of adversity. So we were like leaning on each other during the in the unit, and then when we would come home, we would come home to supportive families. My husband, he is an amazing guy, and we pray together. He's my strength here. So for me, I find strength in my faith and in my friends and family, and I try to share my source of strength with some of my colleagues, because we don't have um, some of them does not necessarily have a faith base. So this time it was a good time to share my faith with them. So that's how I've been coping and supporting each other and the families through it all. So,
Okay, great. Deborah, has your philosophy about life has it shifted in any way based on the pandemic?
No, it never really had to shift. I think it has just been strengthened, the way that I've always thought and lived. I would say that I would not say I'm a religious person. I would say I'm a spiritual person, and have always been. Having been through, I studied in the GDR, which was the deep communism at that point of time, came through all of that, through to this whole situation. So I've had a lot of background, and I've always been very, very spiritual and resting in myself. So all of this came out when this hit us, and we realized what was happening around the whole world. My biggest worry was, when will I actually see my family again? Because I am here actually quite alone in Germany, when you want to put it like that, as a person from my family. So that's the moment when you do realize, oh my God, if anything were to happen, you are actually here alone. Of course, you have your friends, your husband, and that sort of thing, but your family is all over the place, and this contact is not there. And I had to say, number one, the spirituality was definitely something that helped me to keep a clear mind, and the fact that technology kicked in. Even my mother uses FaceTime, and she's 88. So we were able to see each other every day and speak to each other. And I think one of the realizations for me was not to take time and friendship for granted. That was one promise I made to myself. If you have a chance to speak to someone, to see someone, do it, because you never know when it would be the last time. That was certainly one. And then my biggest comfort, apart from my family, my husband, and my spirituality, is my music. So I comfort myself, and I use it as well to comfort others.
Alicia, what as you have come through the pandemic, what's like one thing you hope that we as a people can learn?
I hope we can learn that, like Deborah was saying, we shouldn't take anything for granted. Things changed so quickly that it it was almost mind-boggling how we can go from simple things like going to church, going to dinner, going for a walk, and not have to wear a mask or stay 6 feet away from each other. Stop taking things for granted and just live in the moment. I have certainly started. One thing has changed for me is I was always very careful with planning things, and now I'm just living in the moment. Uh, yes. Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Yes, we'll take a short break and then we'll start going into a few other bits before we get back to the serious stuff. We'll be back shortly. You tuned into Bits and Pieces, New York City. This is our weekend edition. All right, we're back with Bits and Pieces and our special guest, Alicia, from she's sitting in with us from British Columbia, and then there's Deborah from Bonn, Germany. Now, Alicia, at the beginning, you referred to your hometown, Bartica. Now, Bartica. Now, is is there something special about Bartica? Would you say there's something special about Bartica folks that would make you unique or distinct from the other folks in Guyana? If you were to distinguish a Bartician, how would you do that?
Um, well, without being biased, Bartica is when you talk about Bartica folk, you got to talk about family. So Bartica, the whole of Bartica, regardless of whether we're related by blood, we see each other as family. And the thing about Barticians is we're very hospitable, and I can say that for all of Guyana. But something about coming and landing at the selling at Bartica, you come in and you feel like you're at home, regardless of where you're from. So, um, that's the sweetness about Bartica. It always feels like home wherever you're from.
Is there a way, say for when you're in the diaspora, whether you're walking through Bridgetown
Hmm.
or Brooklyn, New York, is there a way to recognize someone from Bartica? Can we look at someone and say, hey, that person gotta be from Bartica?
There's a twinkle in the eye. There's a pep in the step. There's a sweetness about them that you can't miss, and that's how you know they're from Bartica.
Wow. Well, I went to Bartica just about 3 years ago when I went back again for the first time after 30 years.
Wow.
And all I can remember is the place was so blooming hot. But
That's because we're all hot there. There's a lot of hot girls.
Yeah. And the greatest thing was being able to give my husband a snow cone, one of the best ever.
Oh, nice.
Deborah, tell us a little bit. Now, you say you were born in England, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've never really asked this of one of my fellow Guyanese born. How do you define yourself? Are you British? Are you British Guyanese? Are you Guyanese? How do you normally define yourself?
A wise person once said, one should not even ask your nationality. You should ask, where are you local? And I found that a fantastic description or a way of describing myself. I would say I'm a local of Georgetown, where I grew up. I'm a local of London, Catford, where my family is. I'm a local of Bonn, where I've been for the past 20 years. That is how I would define myself. But if I want to make things easy, I just say I'm Guyanese. That is what defines me.
Okay, okay, great. How old were you when you went back to Georgetown?
4.5, 5. Well, not went
Um,
back, went.
um, do you remember it being hard to adjust, or at that age it didn't really matter to you?
Oh, it was an eye opener. I have very, very early memories, and it was a complete culture shock. Definitely, we were a small family of four, and then you got to this beautiful open tropical country. It was very, very hot, and you had thousands of cousins all of a sudden. You couldn't even remember the names, and at that point of time my mum was still studying, so we came with our father. So of course it was a great period of adjustment, and I do remember being torn apart by the mosquitoes, my cousins giving us these wiri wiri pepper or whatever they were called and saying they were cherries, and so, oh yeah, sitting in the schools, and because we were so good, we were the little goody two shoes, and the others getting some caning, and we never being able to move out of the way, so we got that as well. So it was a complete culture shock. But yeah, well, after that you got into it. But I do remember the big change.
Okay. You talk about cousins.
Mhm.
Now, were you one of those folks? I guess most of us growing up in Guyana would have been in this kind of situation. You go somewhere and you say, "Hey, this person is your cousin, and this person is your cousin." Are you the kind of person who would would go and readily embrace that cousin, or are you kind of standoffish and just say, "Oh, hi," and thing, or are you, the one who would run to embrace this newly found cousin?
No, we were brought up that way, and our doors were always open. Cousins were always coming over to our to London to study. They stayed at us and that sort of thing. So we were accustomed to that, and it was the same thing when we got there. So yeah, your family. You can prove your family. All right, then your family. So that's it.
How about you, Alicia? How did you deal with your cousins?
It's almost different. It's very different for me from Deborah. I lived in Bartico. A lot of my cousins lived in Georgetown, but I never met my cousins until I was around 13 years old. So I don't, and then my father is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and those cousins I never met until I was an adult. So um, I didn't have the close bond with my cousins growing up. We're okay now. It's nice to have cousins, but we growing up we weren't close. But we were nine kids altogether. I'm the last of nine, so we had a lot of family bonding that way. So yeah.
If you were to name two things that you miss most about Guyana, Alicia, what would those two things be?
I miss the melting pot of cultures. Here in Canada, we're very laid back, very quiet. I remember bringing my mom one year for Christmas, and she's like, "Thanks, but I'm never spending another Christmas with you in Canada. It's too boring." And listen, she said, "Not one drunk man lost his way in your yard this year." So I miss the culture and I miss the food. There's nowhere else in the world you could get a Chinese food like you would get in Guyana. It doesn't matter how you try, where you go, the food. And I also miss the water. In growing up in Bartica, we were always at the riverside. I miss that. And then I moved to Barbados where lots of water again. And then here I'm landlocked. So I feel almost claustrophobic sometimes. That's why I'm waiting for this COVID to be gone so that I can spread my wings again and go enjoy some swimming somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, great. How about you, Deborah? What two things do you most miss about Guyana?
The food and the humor.
Mhm.
Definitely. I mean, you at least you guys are you do have a couple of Guyanese around you and that sort of thing. My few Guyanese, I think the last time we checked, there are 75 Guyanese in the whole of Germany. 80 million people here. So 75
Yeah.
Guyanese. So, and a few of us do manage to see each other and so on. It just to relax into the lingo and to enjoy that kind of sense of humor that we have. You don't know what it's like until you miss it. It really is. The Guyanese humor is fantastic, and of course the food. I mean, it's great when we get together with the family in England and so on, and do manage to have a few of the dishes and so on. But yes, as you said, Alicia, this Chinese food, and yeah, or the Indian food, or a real metem, or a great pepper pot, and so on. Yeah, it's just different.
Oh, seeing that you both like Chinese food, what's your favorite Chinese dish, Alicia?
I liked fried rice. I still like it. So,
Chicken,
yes,
beef, roast pork.
chicken.
Okay,
Chicken. I got chicken fried rice.
okay.
Yes.
How about you, Deborah? What's your favorite Chinese food?
Sweet and sour prawns.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did we have that back home in Guyana?
No, of course.
I guess of late, but I knew growing up, that was certainly not one of the things I remembered on the menu. Maybe it started in the 90s after New Thriving and those places came on. So maybe okay.
Well,
Um, Now, Deborah, I know you just mentioned it. You like singing, right? And I do remember you and your sister from school. You guys were in the music. I think you played the violin, right?
I did.
At some point, right. So yeah, I know music is with you. Um, Singing, is it something that relaxes you? What role does music play in your life?
My Facebook status says it all. I usually say medicine is my profession, music is my passion. So I think that says it all. I'm always singing. It definitely relaxes me. It fulfills me. It makes me happy. Yeah, it's a part of my whole being.
Okay. All right. We're going to have a little clip of Deborah singing. So we're going to put that on and then we're going to be back with you. This is Bits and Pieces, New York City.
My funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with my heart. Your looks are laughable, that you're my favorite word of art. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? But don't change your hair for me. Not if you care for me. Stay, little Valentine. Stay.
All right. On that note, I think this is a great time to wish all our listeners a happy Valentine. That was Deborah doing My Funny Valentine. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Valentine. Alicia, would
Mhm.
you, from your own experience, would you say that we Guyanese, we men from Guyana and the Caribbean, would you say that we are we good at demonstrating love? Are we good at saying "I love you"?
Well, I can talk about my man. He's really good at saying "I love you." And but from what you see happening in the stores and from my friends' Facebook posts, I think men are getting better at expressing themselves. I think when I was younger, I didn't see a lot of that happening. Among our Guyanese men, but now, as I don't know, there's a shift happening, and they're getting softer and nicer, and they're expressing themselves more. So yeah, I think they're trying.
How about you, from your own experience, Deborah? Are we Guyanese and Caribbean men good at saying "Hey, I love you"?
Hey, I left when I was 18 and I wasn't even allowed officially to have a boyfriend. So I definitely have to pass up on that one. I can't say, but I do believe, as Alicia says, that people have moved on, that this generation is definitely another. We have internet, we have Facebook, we have television. We've seen how it can be. And I think that our men have definitely taken their cue. I should think so.
As you look at life, though, and considering the year that we that is, has just passed with the COVID and all that, how can we as human beings generally, how can we best show our neighbors, our friends, our co-workers here, I care about you, I'm concerned about you, I love. How can we best show this, based on your own experience? I'll start with you, Deborah.
It's just the simple little things. We're all in lockdown, as we know, right here in Germany. It's a very official thing. So the best thing that you can do is always to be we're connected as a community on WhatsApp once a day to make sure that people are okay. You just send up a message and that sort of thing. Wear your mask, for heaven's sake. It's definitely not a problem, and keep your distance. That's clear. But make sure that you're greeting people when you pass still with your eyes. At least let them know that there's someone who cares. Connect and be kind. That is so important, even more so.
Alicia, let me just drop the word kind. would you say that kindness of above all other things is one of those things that is needed right now?
Yes, and I also want to touch on, I agree with all that Deborah said, and I also want to add that in this time of lockdown, like I mentioned earlier, I am used to traveling 2, 3 times a year, just going somewhere. And without that, I start to feel a little bit claustrophobic. And I'm thinking of the kids who are locked in their houses, staring at a screen all day. Be kind to them. The teachers who are, this is all new to them, be kind to them. The partners who would have lost their income because of COVID, and there's a rise in domestic violence right now. We just want to encourage you this Valentine's Day to show love and be kind to each other, because this thing is real. It's really affecting us in all aspects of our lives. So take that word kindness and multiply it by exponentially, and just show kindness to the person who's living alone next door, the grandmas, the grandpas, the people who the only source of socialization would have been, I don't know, at the senior center or at the church or somewhere, and now they have nothing. Just find ways to be kind. Drop a little bit of something at the doorstep, socially distanced, and call them, send an email, do something. Just show kindness to one person to make life a little easier, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We're here to serve each other, really. So that's my take on the kind word.
Definitely. And I noticed that in the clinic as well. I mean, you cannot, I have to take time off, not only to just deal with the medical side of things, but give them the 2 minutes to speak and to interact, because I do realize that sometimes I am the only person that they will be interacting with for the whole day. And they've been looking forward to even coming to the clinic, not just to complain about their medical problems, but just to speak to a normal human being. And this is something that you always have to keep at the back of your head, even while social distancing and while trying to keep the time and the limited and so on. That is so important, the kindness.
Okay, I certainly would agree with everything that has been said. Let's take another shift, another bit. Breakfast.
That's a shift.
Are you both breakfast lovers?
I am trying to get better at it, but I am always in such a rush in the mornings that breakfast is not a priority for me. When I was little, though, my mom made sure that you had to have something to eat before you left for school, and then I did not carry on the tradition, sadly.
How about you, Deborah? Are you a breakfast person?
Nay, breakfast has become brunch. It's not, and it's just out of the fact that one just does not have time, So during the week, no, but on weekend we celebrate it. Still as brunch because it doesn't happen before 10 o'clock, but but it's celebrated. Yeah.
All right. We're gonna move to a clip from 2008. This is in Barbados, and then we're gonna come back and discuss breakfast back in the day when we did have to take it.
Well, my typical breakfast is really sardines. I love sardines. But the sardines are like the best are probably the sardines with the flavored sardines. I don't know if you know about the flavored sardines that stirring now. Some of them has got Louisiana hot sauce or tomato sauce or lemon sauce. So you don't have to do much with them. You just take them out of the can and eat them straight. I don't even mix no onion or nothing so with them. Just straight, just out of the can. With a little biscuits and I'm good to go. That's my typical breakfast.
So you do your sardine like that, Marcel?
No way. I gotta take mine out of the can. Most times I would buy ordinary ones. Take out the can, cut it in half, take out the belly, try to scrape it off, take out the little fins and all that you see in the fin, take it off, take out the bone. But the truth is, I mean, it tastes good, right? And of course, I put little lime juice on it and garlic and onion, chop up in nice circles and tomato and yeah. Then I fry it up nice. Of course, most times I buy the one with the oil.
Right,
in oil.
right.
So use the
I eat
same.
them too.
Right, so use the same and I fry it up.
I like them too.
Any sardine lovers on the panel?
Sorry, tough crowd.
It's not
So,
the first thing I think about.
Deborah, back in the day, in your younger days growing up, what was your favorite breakfast? What was your favorite breakfast growing up in Guyana?
Scrambled eggs with bacon strips and plantain on the side, and then some nice sweet bread with a lot of butter on it.
What? Okay, when you say butter, are you speaking Guyanese, meaning, growing up, golden cream margarine, most of us call butter.
Yeah.
There was also Sunnyvale butter, but most
Yeah.
of us would call, the blue bonnet or the golden cream margarine. Which was it, Deborah?
I called that in our house, margarine was margarine, butter was butter. So, nene, the butter.
What was your favorite breakfast, Alicia?
Well, my mother has a recipe. Well, she's passed on now, but she used to make a really good bake, and that bake, you could eat it by itself. You could eat it for lunch. You could eat it for supper. It was a good bake. Didn't need much with it, but my favorite thing with it was eggs, and or whatever butter or margarine Mr. Ishmael at the corner selling by the ounce and some cheese, whatever we get from him, we buy it from him and we put with that bake. But the bake was the epitome of the breakfast. It was it was the masterpiece. It was the thing to have. Mommy bake.
Good, good. Definitely talked about plantains. Would it be the ripe plantains, the semi-ripe, or the green plantains? Which was your preference?
No, not so ripe that that it was disintegrating, but it should be ripe. You should get the sweetness of it. Definitely.
Okay, and would it be fried or boiled?
Right, hello. Boy, planting, you choke. No, I never.
So, at least when you think of the Guyanese breakfast and you're there in British Columbia, and you think of the market, what do you miss most about, hey, this morning I feel I can get up and go and buy such and such. What do you miss most buying, going to the market, to pick up from Guyana?
Well, we have a very good supermarket here with most things. But I miss going to the market and have it already done. So like you could go going up in Bartica, you could buy a bacon sour fish. When I moved to Barbados, I have to say, when I was at the community college there for a bit, there was a guy who would sell doubles outside the gate, and I that was became my breakfast at 10. When I got my 10 o'clock break, I would go buy doubles. So I don't have the time to sit and make all these things from scratch always. But so I miss having them ready done, because everything is in the supermarket that I need to make a good Guyanese breakfast, but I don't have the time always to do it. So that's what I miss from the market. Ready done food.
In terms of Guyanese cooking, have you guys, I know you spoke about Chinese, missing Guyanese style Chinese food. Are there any special other recipes that you sometimes crave for, be it a metaji, a cook up rice, that you really crave for every now and then, starting with you, Alicia?
So for me, I love cassava bread. And so when I don't get cassava bread, I get a little bit antsy because I go home at least once a year and I stock up on my cassava bread and cashew. This year, I was so fortunate to have a very good friend from New York City send me some cashew and cassava bread. It was the best Christmas gift ever. So yeah, that's one of the things that I one of the Guyanese cuisine that I miss.
And is there any special dish that your husband would, every now and then ask you to or demand that you prepare for him?
I don't know about the demanding or ask because he's an excellent cook. In fact, if I am to be honest, he's the better cook in this house. So whenever he wants something, he would just go for it, and I would keep him company and enjoy it. Yeah.
So do you enjoy cooking and preparing Guyanese dishes, Deborah?
Well, I don't really prepare that many Guyanese dishes. Mine is also just as like my life is always a sort of a fusion of everything. And the time when the Guyanese dishes come on the table is when Mom and my sister come to visit. So I do end up craving quite a lot. And it's usually things like a good cook up with pigtail or metaji. I just love metaji and pepper pot. And I tell you, with this COVID, my Christmas nearly crashed because I did not have any casrib. Mum and Alison could not come. And so for the first time, I was going to have to stand in that kitchen and make a pepper pot, and I had no casrib. And I realized this about 4 or 5 days before Christmas. So my goodness, I wrote that on Facebook. I wrote that I was mourning that I was not going to have Christmas. And do you know, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't think he wants his name mentioned. But an angel, a Guyanese angel, just wrote to me in Messenger and said, you need to have Casrib. I'll send you some with DHL. And the next morning, 2 bottles of Casrib were on my table from London with DHL. That's just before they locked down. It was the savior. And I made the best. I never knew that I could make pepper pot. I made the best pepper pot in the whole world.
I mean, that's a very good Guyanese friend. I mean, I guess he was really feeling you, really,
Yeah, definitely.
You could put himself
They weren't even sorry that I wasn't going to see my mom and my sister. They were just sorry that I wasn't going to have pepper pot. So
we're gonna have a little more music from Deborah, and then we're gonna come back and continue.
Really?
My friends, thank you for joining.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see.
No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me.
So darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
If the sky we look upon stumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea.
I won't cry, no I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, stand by me.
Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
All right, that was Deborah, our special guest from out of Bonn, Germany. Stand by me. All right, now we're gonna move to close. Um, the question is now, at the other end of this pandemic, when this is all over, Alicia, where do you first go? What do you do that you haven't, been able to do, say, in the last 12 or so months? When this hopefully is all over, where do you go or what do you do?
Well, first I'll go on my knees and just thank God for bringing us through this. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel with vaccinations and resilience from some of our people. So I look forward to just rejoicing over the fact that this pandemic is over. And then I I do have a few trips lined up, but I look forward to going home though to Guyana and seeing my family again and touching and hugging and them. I miss that. I talk to family almost every day via FaceTime and all that, but I look forward to putting my foot and my feet on Guyanese soil and seeing the people that is so close to my heart and eating some Chinese fried rice and drinking cool. Yeah. So that's what I look forward to doing.
How about you, Deborah?
Well, it's almost the same thing, I suppose, for all of us who are in the diaspora. The first thing that I need to do is to get on the next plane and get over to London and be able to hug and kiss and laugh and gaff and eat and just communicate and be with my family. That's the most important thing. And then the second part, of course, just getting in touch with friends here and being able to sing. I don't only sing as a soloist, apart from that, also in a choir, a jazz choir, and we have not been able to sing for a year together. It's just ridiculous, and I miss that harmony, and that is definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, it's been so beautiful having both of you here. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for agreeing to come on. We maybe hopefully sometime in the near future we can chat again. All right. So thank you, Alicia from British Columbia and Deborah from Bonn, Germany. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank you, listeners,
Thank
for being
you.
with us this afternoon. And do join us again next Wednesday for another episode of Bits and Pieces, New York City. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
so
Thank
much,
you.
Deborah.
Dankeschön.
Okay. You would have heard it said that New York City is a melting pot, home to a variety of peoples and cultures. And in contrast to what you may occasionally encounter in this era of fake news, this statement is true. So very true. Think only of the fact that some 800 languages are spoken across the 5 boroughs of Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island. And the most diverse section of this also diverse metropolis is the borough of Queens. For there is no other urban area on earth with so many distinct ethnicities. Now should you opt to journey through Queens, you will at some point encounter an enclave dominated by the presence of Guyanese and Trinbagonian immigrants, a neighborhood that the media has christened as Little Guyana. This is Bits and Pieces New York City, a podcast and news magazine designed to promote the interests of the communities of Queens, New York, while building awareness of the cultures and lifestyles of the people of Guyana, the rest of the Caribbean, and Latin America. Bits and Pieces. With so much to talk about,